Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome back after a holiday weekend. It is Tuesday, y'all. Good morning. I am Coach Candy with Coffee Chats. Welcome, welcome. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your juice, water, whatever it is. Let's get rocking and rolling. Good morning, Herbie. How was everyone's weekend? Welcome. Good morning, Deborah. I'm looking for my bowl. I'm so used to the drawing from last week. I'm like, wait, I got to put names in the bowl. But we are done with our celebration of 100. Good morning. Yes, happy Tuesday. Good morning, Martha. How is everybody doing? Good morning, Paul. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Hope you all had a great holiday weekend. Anybody do anything super exciting or not? We'll get rocking and rolling here in just a second. Let everybody get jumped on. You can keep doing the drawings. Yes, I'm sure most of you would not. We will have them again when we hit another milestone for sure. Right now, the drawings are on hold. So I've got several things to send out to everybody and get those rocking and rolling. And some of you will be getting an email from me that won the complimentary ticket to come to the event in October. I will be sending out details after this call so that you have everything you need to get your plans made for the 18th and 19th of October. Good morning. Good morning, Mateo. Morning. I did not receive it yet. I'm assuming it'll be in the mail today, Paul. So looking forward to that holiday weekend. I think things get a little crazy. Hosted an end of August party. Fantastic. I love that. Spent time with my wife. Awesome. Sounds like you guys had fun this weekend. That's super amazing. I had a couple things going on. I don't even remember what it was now. It feels like it was so long ago. I got hiking in with Peyton. We got, what else did I do? I don't even know what I did this weekend. Crazy. So anyway, we are here. It is the start of a new week. It is the start of a new month. So we, a couple things came up when we were doing had R&R ready to step it up this week. Awesome. Yes, because can you believe we have 4 months? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have, that didn't work out right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me try that again. We have 4 months until the end of the year, which means there is opportunity to, pedal to the metal, ramp things up, level it up, end strong, and get your head kind of wrapped around 2020, which is right around the corner, right? So want to make sure that we're providing the right things. Also, in some of the conversations last week when we were doing our week of 100, celebrating the 100th anniversary, or the 100th episode, I need to stop saying anniversary. A couple of the topics came up, one of them being around transitions. And so I want to spend some time, good morning, Sarah, in some different spaces talking around transitions. This morning, though, before we even talk about transitions, I want to get into a conversation around the word someday and how and where that's holding you back. It's amazing to me how many people spend a majority of their life saying, well, someday I'm going to do this. Someday that's going to happen. Someday I'm going to grant myself permission to take this on. Someday I'm going to step out on my own. And good morning, Peggy. And what I want you to realize is a couple things happen when you say someday. First of all, I saw an amazing quote that I wanted to share with you, and I want you to think about how much power that word someday has and what it's creating or not creating in your life when you are stepping into that space, right? Good morning, good morning. And so here's the quote that I just saw. It said, there is a danger in the word someday when what it means is not this day. And so when you think about things that you're trying to access in your life, when you think about things that you know are going to be game changers, when you think about those things that if you were to push yourself into your uncomfortable, if you were to step into the arena more, think about where that word someday is causing you to stop, causing a block, causing you to create unnecessary resistance. Because think about where the word someday comes from, right? For most people, it's coming from a place of fear. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday around why fear shows up, why people are so afraid of change and what that really means. And, there's 3 reasons why people fear. And fear is nothing more than an anticipation of pain. So if that's true, we're anticipating something that's unknown. Good morning, Michelle. And so I want you to think about that. That anticipation of pain means we're living in the future, right? So most people, the reason someday is showing up is they're either spending way too much time in the past, so they haven't been able to propel themselves into today, or they're too worried. And worry is a mindset. And I know I've talked about that before, but worry is not an actual emotion. It's a mindset. It's a condition in our mind. It's the story we're telling ourselves. It's that what if game we play about the sky is going to fall. What if I fail? What if this happens? We create worry. What if I can't afford that? What if this turns my bank accounts inside out? What if I go bankrupt? What if this? What if that, right? And what happens is that worry creates this narrative, creates this story that's never even happened. And so when we say someday, we're fueling that worry. We're fueling because something says there's too much risk right now, or there's too much fear. Good morning, Shirley. And so we think about the fact that there's 3 reasons people fear change. And one is the space of they are afraid that they're going to have to give up something that they like. So people, for example, that are trying to get healthier, their biggest comment that I hear clients say is, what if I had to give up my favorite foods? My response always is, what if, or imagine if, because I like to change the what if to an imagine if, so your imagination and impossibilities can creep in. I say, imagine if you actually could find foods you enjoyed more and they made your body feel better and you were energized and you could actually taste your food again because you're getting all that processed crap out and could actually taste what food is supposed to taste like. Imagine if you didn't even know there was something else out there that was a bigger favorite because you've been so stuck eating your Cheetos all day long, right? So I want you to think about, we have a real fear of letting go. Good morning, Terry. Letting go of what we think we need or what we have. And sometimes it's the narrative, sometimes it's the story, right? And then there's another great saying that says, what's getting in the way of your awakening is your last awakening or your last enlightenment, right? The reason why you're struggling to feel enlightened is because you're stuck in your last level of enlightenment. And what happens is we hold on to things thinking we're going to lose them and not thinking about what we might gain or access instead. And so we say things like someday because we're not ready to let go of our security blanket. We're not ready to let go of that thing that's comfortable. We're not ready to let go of playing victim. And for some people, that's a real they've convinced themselves they need to play victim. They convince themselves because, and I'm going to explain that in just a moment, you can what if yourself to death. Yes, you can, absolutely. And so I want you to think about you as a child, or think about other children that you know. Think about the ways that our whole being when we were children is for survival. Everything that we learn is for survival. And so when you're first coming in this world, you don't know worry, you don't know shame, you don't know any of these things until you are conditioned in various aspects of that. And so your whole thing is you want attention. And we mistake attention for love oftentimes, especially as it grows into our adulthood. And what we don't realize is that need for attention. And so a baby learns, if I cry, I get attention. If I do this, so depending on how you were brought up, depending on the environment and culture, there are people that have been taught right or wrong, and now there's an opportunity to take responsibility for that and change that. But there have been people that have been taught that the more I complain about things, the more I cry about things, the more I whine about things, the more attention I get. And because they haven't learned how to distinguish between real love, real self-love, real compassion, real meaningful love from others, they mistake attention for love. And so they are still in a cycle where they are doing things that draw that attention to them. So there is a real need for them to still play victim. And so when they do that, they're like, oh, I can't do this now. And they have to play that martyr, and they have to think about, well, right now, this is what's going on in my life. So someday that'll happen for me. And what happens is you're not letting yourself be in that present. And so that's one of the reasons why people hold back. It's that fear of what's going to have to be lost in order to gain something else, right? So what are you going to have to let go of? What are you going to have to release? What are you going to have to part ways with potentially? There's a real fear for people about that attachment, that comfort zone. And how many of you, I'm curious, did your purging this weekend? I did. I have like massive bags to drop off for donations. Felt really good to do my cleaning. But that's an example, letting go of that, right? Letting go of what you're attached to can be really freeing, because there's a fear in, I need to hold. What if something happens? What if I need this later? When you're like, okay, I'll worry about that then. Right now, doesn't fit with the season I'm in my life or whatever, right? So the other reason people fear change is because the idea is that it's going to be really hard, right? That if I do something new, and so some of you are like the somedayers, because in the back of your mind, you're like, it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to suffer. Oh my God, there's going to be so much pain to get to the other side. And I think about some of you who talk about stepping out on your own to be entrepreneurs, right? There's this whole conversation you have going on that talks about how hard it's going to be, how much money it's going to take. Oh my God, no one's going to understand, and your family's going to like ostracize you. Whatever the story is, there's this whole space of it's going to be hard. It's going to have to hurt. Oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready to put in those kind of hours. When many of you, I would like to say, especially if you're teetering on that line of, do I still stay in my corporate job? Do I do the entrepreneurial thing? Many of you are working those hours now, and you're selling your soul doing it. And so I want you to think about, are you getting the return back in your life that you want? And I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself, because your someday could be very different than somebody else's. The thing is when we keep saying someday, first of all, I want you to understand that someday isn't even a day that exists. When you look at any calendar, I don't care in what culture, there is no someday on your calendar. There is none, which means there's no space to hold yourself accountable. There's no commitment. There's no action. And so any of you that have ever worked with me in any capacity, you know, if you throw a someday at me, my first response is what day, what time, when? Because I want you to tell me, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? By when, what day, and what time? Because someday is a cop-out. It's kind of like if you send me a message and I say, how you doing? And you're like, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm good. My response usually is, okay, so tell me what's really going on, because those are unacceptable answers. The cop-out, wishy-washy someday, what it does is it takes that personal power off the table, and it allows you to put your power, your responsibility in somebody else's bucket, or out there somewhere waiting for somebody to come and grant you permission to live your life. If you are catching yourself saying someday in any capacity, you are shifting your own personal power away from you. I want you to realize that, because it's only when you make a choice, it's only when you decide that says by this day, and you set a goal, because a dream is great, but a dream without a goal is nothing. And so it's only when you set a target for yourself. It's only when you say, you know what, by the end of this year, I'm going to decide, am I staying in corporate or am I getting out? And then I'm going to put a 6-month plan together for myself to transition, or whatever it is. But there is a level of commitment that's required, and there's a level of responsibility. When you say someday, it's almost as if, and for those of you, you know, this is a personal pet peeve of mine, when people say, well, I'm not making a decision, which is, by the way, the most powerful decision you can make, is when you choose not to make a decision, because in that instance, you give all your power over to anybody else who's ready to claim it. Because then what you do is you put yourself in a position to bitch and complain when something doesn't go your way, and you get to play victim. Someday is the same thing. It is as wishy-washy and as cop-out as I don't want to make a decision, because when you say someday, that's essentially what you're saying. You're like, well, not today, not mine, not going to take it. Therefore, I'm just going to let the cards fall however they fall. And that way I get to stay in a place where I get to still feel victimized and not take responsibility for my life. And so I want you to realize that those two frames are the same. Let me see what you guys are jumping in here. I love how this is blowing up as usual. Terry, I've been purging a little bit at a time. When I'm in a drawer or a cupboard, I pause to purge. Feels great. Oh, it's amazing. Started a purge project. Old tax files. Yes. Good morning, Keith. Yes, it's so important, letting go of that stuff, right? Because a lot of that is in that mindset of that someday, when you're attached to, oh my gosh, I can't let go of something. What if I have to let something go in order to move forward, when you don't realize that you might gain access or gain something you've never even had in your life. Because one of my biggest questions to ask people when they're not able to move forward, when they keep putting the someday out there, is to say, well, how's it working for you now? A lot of my clients don't like that question, because I ask that a lot. How's that working for you? One of the best coaching questions you can ask somebody, especially when they keep slamming up against excuses and they keep pushing against with resistance. The best question you can say is, so how's that working for you? It's amazing to me. I was just having a conversation with somebody as well. We were getting in the someday conversation this past weekend. A friend of mine, she and I went to lunch on Friday. And we were talking about why people get stuck and where they're at. And I said, oh, because we were having this conversation about the someday syndrome. And it's a syndrome because there's no responsibility. There's no ownership in it. And we were talking about how, people push that off and how they're like, oh, well, someday I can't do that, and why they do that. And again, there's a fear in that. Some of it goes back to a self-worth thing. They don't think they're worthy to step forward, or they're so convinced they have to hold on to something that they don't know what could open up. And when you say, how's that working for you? Because I get a lot of people that'll resist me sometimes. They hire me as their coach. Yet they want to fight me on everything that we go through that's a suggestion, opportunity. They're like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Okay, you hired me for a reason because what you're doing is not working. I have expertise in areas that have proven success track records, right? People that have been able to move past that. So it's amazing to me how somebody, we were talking, she was talking about how she had a client. She's like, I don't understand why they're paying me. They won't do anything. And I said, I've learned how to weed out those people, because if you're going to hire me as your coach, then you're relying on the fact that I'm going to help guide you to make different decisions. Because if you're going to keep fighting that says, I got to keep doing the same thing I'm doing now, what's the point? And, what happens is people get in that space of insanity where they want to keep doing the same thing over and over again, and they expect a different result. That someday plays in that space, right? Like you think somehow someone's going to come by with a magic wand and drop some pixie dust on you, and someday your life is going to change. It doesn't work like that. It works when you take ownership and when you step forward to say, today is the day. And as Oprah says, I change, the narrative changes today. Today is the day that I decide that this is what I want. I decide that I want to make this happen within this time frame, knowing I'm going to unattach from the outcome because the universe is going to make it come faster, sooner, whatever. And I'm going to take aligned action, inspired action, to start putting forth the things that happen. Because it also plays into that whole conversation when people are like, I watched The Secret, it doesn't work. And I'm like, did you actually watch The Secret or read the book, or did you just read the back cover? Because what people think, and I agree that I think that and I know they're trying to rework a new version of that. I agree that there needs to be more focus on the inspired and aligned action that you take once you get so clear on what you want. I do think there's a little too much emphasis on, if you just think it, it'll show up. That's not exactly what the principle of The Secret or law of attraction actually says. It says get so crystal clear on what you want that you can actively visualize as if it's already here, and then act accordingly in your life in alignment and intention so that you're bringing forth and opening up access for what you want. That's what it actually says. It says that you're so clear that every day you're like, is this helping to get me closer to that, or is this pulling me further? Am I acting in accordance and alignment with what I say is most important to me? Or am I sitting out there going, okay, I did the magic lamp, I told the universe I want $1 million, therefore someday that's going to show up. And that's the loop that people get in, is because they're copping out somewhere or in all spaces along that process. And so I want you to think about when we talked about potentiality, right? And you're stepping into that bucket of your potential, what you tap into your potential dictates the level of action you take, which then dictates the results you get, which then feeds your conviction and belief and courage for yourself. And it's an ongoing loop, right? So if you want to be able to tap into more potential, stop making someday excuses, which is holding you back and having you play small. If there are things that are burning inside of you right now, they are these passions, they are these fires. And if you keep saying someday, and I'm going to give you 3 questions I want you to think about in just a moment to ask yourself when that's showing up, but I want to make sure what's going on. Entrepreneur equals never working another hour again. Yes, and I want to emphasize that a true entrepreneur or business owner is very different than being self-employed. And there is a process when you first transition, and we're going to talk about this. For many of you, you're going to be self-employed before you become a real entrepreneur or business owner. Because what you're going to do is you're going to end up creating a job where you work for yourself, because you've got to get systems and got to get things in place in order to create leveraged income, which is passive and residual income, so that then you have that freedom. Because what happens is there's 4 quadrants. There is you're employed, so you work for someone else. There's self-employed, which means you work for yourself. Both of those, you're still trading hours for money. So you're trading time for dollars. The other side is business owner is someone who has created financial freedom because you don't have to be the core center of what you've built in your business. You've got systems, things are automated. You have other people working for you. Maybe you're licensing things. And then investor says it doesn't even have to be my business. It can be something that I'm doing that is allowing me to play in different baskets. So that I'm pulling income and I'm creating leverage across multiple areas. So just know that those are kind of the steps in the quadrants that you move into. Yes, no decision is the most powerful decision you can make. Terry, stop talking about me. Yes, I know for some of you this is hitting a nerve. I know some of you are big action takers in some areas, and you're somedaying the crap out of yourself in other areas. And so I really want you to get honest with yourself. Where do you keep saying someday? In fact, I actually made a commitment over the weekend, one, because they had some extra bonuses, and I love getting bonuses, which is why I love doing them for you as well. Y'all know that I started Camp Gladiator, started my boot camp again, and it has me getting up at 4:20 in the morning so that I can do a 4:45 class. Now, there's some other options, but I really love the trainer that teaches at this time. Plus, it allows me to get my stuff ready to go so that I can show up and be present with you. And I'm on a trial. Like, they had this birthday thing where you could do 4 weeks for $10. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to commit this to myself that I'm going to do this 5 days a week. I'm going to get up. And so I actually enrolled for a year over the weekend. It doesn't hit till October, and it was a way for me to make a commitment because I'm tired of somedaying myself when it comes to reclaiming my health and wellness. I used to be in fight condition. Working out is my thing, and I've let it go for many other reasons like anybody else. I make excuses, I procrastinate, I've told myself a million narratives on why I can get back to it anytime I want, and I'm like, non-negotiable anymore. Not at all. It's not a negotiable. And knowing that I made a commitment to myself and I verbally made a commitment to my new trainer, that says, okay, then I'm going to rework my schedule, my life, my routine, so that is now a priority, because it's not a someday thing. I'm 46 years old. What am I waiting for? It's time to get myself back into peak condition, because for me to keep doing this level of work and to show up with this energy, to show up with this opportunity to be committed, to teach, to open up space for others to step into, to build community, I have to be playing at my highest and best level. And if I'm not priming that tank, it's not going to happen. And so when we think about those 5 wellness buckets, right, those 5 cups of wellness, which is your emotional state, your mental state, your physical state, your spiritual state, and your energetic state, that plays into that cycle. And for me, it's no more a someday. And so as we talk about that, we have to, find ways to hold ourselves accountable. And I love that, because Herbie's even asking, what is your accountability or role in what's taking place? How do you contribute to the situation? Yes, those are great questions. And so I want you to think about that. What is your accountability? What is your responsibility in any situation? And if something in your life is not where you want it to be, you are ultimately responsible for taking action that changes that. And it's amazing to me. I've actually had people that will challenge this. And I love the meme that's out there that says, look, it's not your doctor's responsibility. It's not your coach's responsibility. It's not your teacher's responsibility. It's not your parents' responsibility. It's no one's responsibility for you to live your life on your terms except for you. And when you understand that and understand that you have an opportunity right now, what I want you to ask yourself when you're somedaying all over yourself, thank you, Martha, I appreciate that. Here's what I want you to ask yourself when this someday syndrome shows up. And it's a syndrome. It has become such a cop-out, because people get all like proud, and it's like they set intention, like, well, someday I'm going to conquer the world. Okay, really stop with the bravado and this. And it's like, I don't care how much energy you put behind someday, it's a watered down cop-out, and it's you not stepping up, taking responsibility for your life, period. So I want you to think about anytime you're like trying to convince yourself, well, someday I'm going to release that weight. Someday I'm going to start eating right. Someday I'm going to step out and start my own thing. Someday. You know what? Every time you say someday, I want you to stop. And I want you to ask yourself, what are you putting off in this moment? Right now, what is the one thing, when you say someday, what is the thing that could change your life that you're putting off in this moment? Then what I want you to ask yourself, and this is a question most people do not want to step into, because even when we have conversations about ROI, and even when I do this in corporate, it's amazing to me. A lot of people talk about ROI, and for those of you that don't know what that is, that's a return on investment. And I want you to realize that most people think, if they even have a equation for that for themselves, they think it's purely a money in versus money out equation. It's not. It is a much bigger equation, and it is a function. Your real ROI for anyone, for a business, individual, it doesn't matter. A true return on investment, not intention. Be very clear. It's a return on investment, not a return on your intention. Intention without action is nothing more than lip service. I just want you to realize that. Action is key. Same thing with the whole secret principle, right? Action is key. Aligned, inspired action. Authentic action. That being said, when you get into that space and you're like, okay, well, you know, the ROI is just money in versus money out. I'm going to put this money in to invest in a training program. I better get this out. Yeah, that's not the full equation for a true ROI. ROI, return on investment, is a function of time, money, energy, people, culture, and lifestyle you are creating. I'm going to say that again. Time, money, energy, people, culture, and lifestyle you are creating. It is a function of all those things. So when you start telling me someday, or start telling yourself, and so that means you're in it, you're pushing something off, something that you could be taking action on today. I then want you to say, once you acknowledge what you're putting off, something that is speaking to you, I want you to acknowledge, what's that costing me? What is that costing me? Is it my joy? Is it peace? Is it financial freedom? Is it being able to have a business on my terms? Is it serving people at my highest capacity? What's it costing you? Is it costing that I'm working 80 to 100 hours a week because I'm too afraid to walk away from a job that's sucking the soul out of me? And I'm going to share more of some of my stories and rock bottoms this week so that you understand, because people ask, how did I know when the transition was the right time? And it got to be, I had so many rock bottoms that at some point I'm like, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm going to be in a grave by the time I'm 40. And I really got to that point where it was so challenging, it was so difficult, and it was costing me all those buckets of wellness, and it was a cost I was no longer willing to put out there. It just wasn't a space I wanted to play in anymore. Terry, you are already accountable and responsible for your life and the results you were getting in it, whether you want to admit it or not. Yep, absolutely. If you don't like what's coming to you, then change it. Everything is happening for you, and everything in your life is a result of what you are putting out in terms of your thoughts, your words, your actions, your intentions, your beliefs. And if you don't believe that, believe it or not, it is absolutely what's happening to you. Law of attraction is a real thing, whether you believe it or not. It's like gravity. If you don't jump, I mean, you're going to fall if you come off a building. It's what's going to happen, whether you believe in gravity or not. You are going to plummet unless you got something strapped to your back that's going to help alter that. But the thing is if you fall off something, you're going to fall. You can't change that. Same thing with the law of attraction. What you put out, what you think about, speak about, believe about, pray about, give energy to, anything that you give energy to, what energy goes out must come back. It is absolutely a non-negotiable. And so whether you believe it or not, to Terry's point, yes, you are ultimately responsible and accountable for your life. I know a lot of people are like, well, that's not true. Well, that's probably why you're stuck and you're not able to move forward. And so the other question is, I want you to ask yourself, so you're going to ask yourself, what are you putting off? What's that costing you in your life right now? And then I want you to ask yourself, what am I most afraid of? What's the narrative I'm creating? What's that anticipation of pain? What's that process? Because the other one, and I told you two of those, one of them was, I'm afraid I'm going to have to give up something instead of thinking about what I could gain. It's going to be really difficult. The change is going to be so hard. And the other one is, what if the grass isn't greener when I do all of this? And so those are real, that fear that hangs out in the change space shows up. And so the space then is to say, what are you fearful of? Where's the fear coming from? What are you afraid of? And when you're willing to look at the stories you're telling yourself, and someday is a story. It is a story that's coming from somewhere, and it's coming from, I don't believe I'm worthy. I don't believe I deserve this. I don't believe I have permission. I don't think I'm going to achieve it. I think whatever the what if, whatever the worry, whatever the space is, you're telling yourself a story inside of that. Well, someday, and you're accomplishing nothing. And so I want you to think about where in your life right now you are creating the someday syndrome. You are creating the someday story because you are inadvertently handing over your personal power every moment that you say someday instead of this day. When it is something that is important to you, if it is something that keeps waking you up, it is something that you keep dreaming about, something you keep talking about, what day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of what week, what month, by when are you going to start to take action on it? Because it's only when you create a target, when you set a date, when you set I'm going to do this, that you actually take action to make that happen. And so I want you to understand that and think about that. There's never a right time. You just go. If you don't, change only comes in desperate times. Yeah, here's the thing. Either you do change or change does you. It's that simple. Your life will change whether you like it or not. And either you can be in the driver's seat and you can open up access for what you want, or life will happen to you. How many of you have gotten caught up in, well, I can't leave my company. I'm so loyal. If I leave, whatever I do, blah, blah, blah. And then you've been laid off. Really? You have no control over it. I refuse to put my life in other people's hands. I am not going to rely on someone else determining whether or not I have a, quote, secure future. And it's amazing to me how many people get caught up in the cycle. And there's different reasons. And not to say everybody should step out and do their own thing. All means. I think there's opportunities to create leverage income whether you're in corporate or not. And anyone that has the mindset that thinks they have job security when they're in corporate is absolutely fooling themselves. There's no such thing. There is absolutely no such thing as job security in any aspect, especially in a corporate setting when you work for someone else, because they dictate whether or not you stay or go. If you are letting all of those eggs in that basket, the only way you create job security is to not need a job and put yourself in the bucket of being either an entrepreneur, business owner, or an investor, where you've got leveraged income and have created that golden goose for yourself that's laying golden eggs no matter what, where you have residual and passive income coming in that can be leveraged. That is the only true financial security you have. If you are just living from even if your paychecks are bigger than what you live on, unless you're using that to invest in areas that's allowing that money to grow, you are not, there's no such thing as job security. There's no such thing. Our market changes, conditions change, times change, technology changes. You either do change and you do it proactively, or change will do you. Because the only constant in this entire world is that life changes. Life changes on a dime. Change is the only constant. So when you determine, I'm going to do change and I'm going to show up with change, or I'm going to allow change to happen to me, your choice. But here's the thing, change is going to happen one way or the other. So which side of, where in the car do you want to be? I want to be in the driver's seat. I want to know that I'm prepared for change and that I have things that I can control in my life despite the change and the shifts that happen, because they are going to happen whether you think they are or not. And so I want you to kind of think about that and tell yourself, either I do change or change does me. Same thing like Brene Brown says, either you do vulnerability or vulnerability does you. That's where the change comes in, right? Life is going to happen, whether you want it to or not. You don't get to say, well, someday. Life doesn't care. Life doesn't play someday. Life just happens. Life is a culmination of the energy and the things that are moving around it. And life is responding to what you and everyone else is putting out there. And so if you think you can control that, wow. So I want you to think about where your someday syndrome is showing up, because as we talk about where you're at in terms of your own transitions, whether it's you need to get out of that bad relationship, whether or not it's you need to use your voice in a relationship, whether or not you're looking to take a new job or create your own thing or step out or write that blog or whatever that big scary thing that's sitting out there that you know is a game changer for you, it's only when you step into place to say, today is the day. I am going to tell myself that by this time, here's when I want to do it. And so I want you to think about what's that thing that you can do today that is going to stop you from saying someday in a space of something that you've been talking about, dreaming about, thinking about stop putting all that energy in out there and command it and own it and bring it forward and take action today. So anything else, any other questions? Great conversation today. Hope this gets you fired up for actually Tuesday. I was gonna say Monday. Yeah, and there's never a right time. If you're waiting for all your eggs to be in a row, you're gonna wait for a really long time. If all your ducks in a row, eggs in one basket, ducks in a row. I'm horrible at saying, so you get the gist. But if you're waiting to have all your ducks in a row, you're gonna wait till you're not on this earth any longer. And so just know that if you're playing the waiting game, if you're playing the someday game, what's it costing you not stepping forward and living your dream? Too many people wait, when I retire, when I do this, and then they end up passing a year later or in a short period, and they never get to step in their dreams. And I think about what Wayne Dyer said, I don't want to die with my music still in me. And if there is music in you right now, if there is something that has your heart pumping, if there is a fire in your belly and breath in your lungs, what are you waiting for? Because now is the time for you to take action in your life. Embrace this moment, embrace today, and stop allowing the someday syndrome to take you over. So with that, we're going to continue talking about some tools and things to consider when it comes to transition. I'll share some of my stories on how I made the decision to leave corporate to do what I'm doing now. There's been some other major transitions in my life as well. And we'll be back here tomorrow, 7:30 Central Time. Hope you all have a fantastic Tuesday. For a short week, which I know usually always feels longer. So excited that you're all here. Were those song lyrics? For which one? Don't die with the music within you? Yeah, I think he and his daughter actually created the song for that. They have a book that says that too. But don't die. I think there's a couple songs that have been done in that capacity. But think about that. Don't die with your music still in you, right? And so you are so welcome, Herbie Harris, and all of the rest of you. I hope you do have an amazing Tuesday, and we're going to hit it hard again tomorrow. I love you all. And for those of you who are gifted the complimentary ticket on last week's drawing for the event next month, I will be sending an email out right now with some of the details so you can get that all set up. With that, everybody, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.